Okay, example 5. Verify the identity. 1 over, or sine over 1 plus cosine equals 1 minus cosine over sine. This was one of the homework problems, right? Similar to it. All right, take one side or the other, doesn't matter which side. I'm going to take the right-hand side. Just be different here. The right-hand side. So 1 minus cosine of x over sine of x. Okay, so what I'm going to do about this is, again, I get to a point where that's simplified. That's in really good shape the way it is. I could separate it, 1 over sine minus cosine over sine, kind of make them separate fractions, but I'm trying to make a single fraction out of it, so that's not a very useful step there. So here's what I do in a situation like this. I have a knowledge of where I'm trying to go with this thing. I see the top's supposed to be sine of x, the bottom's supposed to be 1 plus cosine of x. So if I'm in a fraction world here, and I've got a simplified fraction, I can't make it any simpler. There's no substitutions, no secants or cosecants, tangents or cotangents, anything like that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put part of the answer in my problem. So 1 plus cosine of x is supposed to be on the bottom, so I go ahead and put a 1 plus cosine of x on the bottom. And I go ahead and put a 1 plus cosine of x on top because that's required. So as far as step 1, I pick the right-hand side, right? I'm multiplying top and bottom by 1 plus cosine of x, which gets me on top 1 minus cosine squared of x. On the bottom, sine of x, parentheses 1 plus cosine of x. Okay, if you're going to employ this method, the method of I want to put part of the correct structure in my expression, do not change that. So I could have made this sine plus sine cosine, but that's going against the purpose of doing that in the first place. This is part of the expression I'm trying to make. Put it in, keep it segregated from everything else down there. All right? And as far as reasoning with here, we learned in Algebra 2 that we can multiply top and bottom of a fraction by the same thing. So multiply top and bottom of fraction by same thing. Should be a shortcut for saying that. That's the shortest way. Abbreviate it, then it doesn't. MTABOF BST. Yeah, we'll just go with that. Multiply top and bottom fraction by the same thing. Next, I've got the bottom of the fraction the way I want it to be, right? The 1 plus cosine of x. This sine's hanging around, getting in the way, but at least that's where it's supposed to be. So now I need to start focusing on the part that I don't want there, which is the sine of x. And I got to compare that with the top. And notice the top's supposed to be sine of x. All right? So at this point, now I'm looking at my 1 minus cosine squared of x, and I'm looking at my Pythagorean identities. Again, anytime you see a trig function squared with the number 1, chances are it's one of the Pythagorean identities that's showing up. Even if not, cosine squared has a substitution we can do for it. So take your pick. I'm going to change 1 minus cosine squared into sine squared of x. Okay, so I changed 1 minus cosine squared into sine squared, and that's the same one we did just the last problem, right? It's this number 6. All right, so again, anytime you just do a basic substitution off that sheet, number whatever it is, and then that's how you do it. And then the final step, full page here, there you go, is I've got a sine squared on top and a sine to the first and the bottom. Trig functions to powers act just like letters to powers. So if you have the exact same trig function on the top and the bottom, you can reduce it, and the power subtracts. So this is sine to the first, that's sine to the second. If you cancel, you're going to get sine to the first left on top. And that gets me to the left-hand side, right? And that's by simplification, or simplified. Again, anytime you do any kind of algebraic simplification, that's your reason you simplified. All right, on this step here, I could have just easily done both top and bottom by sine of x. It would have gone through similarly. It wouldn't have been the same. It would have been correct, though. So keep that in mind. There's nothing magical that says I'm going to multiply by this thing or that thing. Just create part of the answer in your expression, and then hopefully the rest of the expression will become the other part of it. So that's the only thing I would suggest in a situation like that. If you have a completely simplified expression and you aren't where you need to be, look where you need to be, go ahead and stick part of it in there, top and bottom by the same thing, and then do some simplification and see if the rest of it works itself out. That will happen often enough that you'll remember doing it.